great example of globalized culture, believe it or not, All Night Long by Lionel Richie actually fits great into our topic of today, which is globalized culture. That's right, today we're talking about pop culture, or that which is popular with the masses, not with the upper classes, but with people in general. And generally we associate pop culture with things like movies and music and TV and pretty much anything you can think of, but this also includes things like clothing and food and really anything that's in with the current culture, with the current individual. You're probably tired of it by now, but remember, globalization is the interdependence of the world. The world is now relying on each other, and with that, we have different things that are shared worldwide. That's a new concept. In the past, generally, people kept to themselves. In the past, pop culture was very regional. It was based on your specific people or your specific area, and you were limited to that. But now in the global age, we can pull aspects of pop culture from around the world, and that's a direct reaction to the events of connection that have taken place during the modern era. The growth of pop culture, however, is definitely connected to the shift in worldview to something we call modernism, which is a new ideology in which people reject the old in favor of the new, or even in favor of the unknown. People are pursuing new opportunities, challenging old authorities, and basically just living a different life than was in the past. It's what we consider to be modern. Make it new, make it better. It's like I always say, I have one rule. People are lazy? No. People are jerks? No. Always use contextualization. Now the other one. New is always better? Yes, new is always better. People always want the next new best thing. And right now, in the wake of the Cold War, the thing that is the best, the new, is anything and everything that's American. How could you even say that? That is like so American. That's exactly what's wrong with this country, Mr. Cain. I'm not saying that to be an arrogant American. It's actually the fact. As a response to the Cold War, America is the surviving superpower. And with that, it's got the most influence worldwide. So there's going to be many countries around the world that want to be like America. For example, Russia. After the fall of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev had brought many different new ideas to Russia. And one of those involved being more open to cultures around the world. And one of the things that Gorbachev promised the people was McDonald's. That's right, there's nothing more American than a Big Mac, a side of fries, and a Coke. And when Russia finally embraces this in the 1980s and introduces McDonald's to their country, Russia has now begun a process that we call Americanization. Russia is just one example of a country that begins to embrace American culture after the Cold War. It's very quickly that American culture spreads throughout the world. But globalized culture is not just American. It takes culture from different parts of the world. And pop culture that we have today is very involved worldwide. There's different parts of the world that we see in our culture every single day. There are three areas in which we see globalized culture really take form. The first is consumer culture. The second is the arts. And the third is sports. First, let's look at consumerism, the increased buying of products that begins to happen worldwide, and the buying of products from different places around the world. Okay, AP buzzword time. We've got a change. In this case, the change is the shift towards consumer culture. More than ever in world history, people are considered to be consumers, meaning they are buying things, whether it's food or clothes or whatever technological products you can think of. In the globalized culture, people are buying and buying and buying. And that's because people have begun to identify with what they own and what they buy, rather than what they do, how they live, or even what they believe. As a teacher, I see this on a regular basis in my classes with the teenagers that I teach with their so-called swag, like all the high school boys who want to wear basketball jerseys all the time. They identify themselves in many ways with that player or with that team or with the fact that they have that jersey. Consumer culture has come to dominate society today. It's about what you have, not necessarily who you are. And that's where these companies are going to begin to make millions worldwide, because companies provide products that then provide social status. Different brands around the world that we consider to be global brands because they reach people around the world. Things like Apple and Nike and Coca-Cola or the aforementioned McDonald's. These different places reach people around the world because of the status that coincides with buying their product. And many of these products have an intent to try to distribute their product worldwide. Take, for example, Coke in the 1970s, whose advertising campaign involved the phrase, "I'd like to buy the world a Coke." And it was kind of conceived that Coke could maybe solve some of the world's problems. And of course, within the globalized era, companies have the ability to ship goods worldwide, whether it's Amazon or AliExpress or eBay. Different companies provide goods to the rest of the world and mass distribute them very easily. Therefore, because of the accessibility of products created through globalization, consumerism certainly contributes to this idea of global culture. The arts are also a significant aspect of globalized culture. Much of this, again, is because of Americanization and the prominence of the English language worldwide after World War II. In literal art, we see shifts towards more abstract styles. Think things like Pablo Picasso and Jackson Pollock. Pictures that don't necessarily have a clear theme that is up to the interpretation of the person that's looking at it. But really, when we talk about arts, we're now talking about entertainment, whether it's music or movies or television or radio. The way in which we spend our time is often with things that are created to entertain us. And with this, we have examples of entertainment from around the world that are accessible by people around the world. Music might be the best example of this. Music has become a hodgepodge or a melting pot of different ideas around the world. And a lot of this goes to the foundation of jazz, which took many different pieces of music and kind of put them together into one new idea, which again, new is always better, was pleasing to many people worldwide. This evolved into many different types of music, from rock and roll to heavy metal to even hip hop and rap. It's all because of jazz that we have different globalized types of music. But one specific example in particular is reggae. Styles of musicians like Bob Marley transcend culture and transcend the globe because of the messages that are spread worldwide and the easy style of listening that this type of music certainly promotes. It's during the 1970s that we start to see music take on different forms of culture from around the world. Take, for example, George Harrison, one of the members of the Beatles, who in the 1970s began to incorporate styles of Hinduism and Buddhism into some of his music, making some what would have been obscure references now mainstream. Or the aforementioned song All Night Long by Lionel Richie. This song was considered to be revolutionary because it took American funk-style music and combined it with things like reggae and Caribbean styles and even African styles and had some different language references. And if you were to watch the music video, you would see all sorts of different types of dancing and a lot of ethnic diversity in the actual video. Greater reflection of the worldwide shift into a high demand of diversity in music and diversity in overall art. Movies and television also display different types of globalized culture. Take, for example, the Bollywood movement, which were musicals and movies made in India that hit it big in the United States. A more modern contemporary example of this is the movie Slumdog Millionaire. Or Japanese styles of media, including anime, things like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! It's time to do. All of these different aspects of globalized culture come together into a melting pot, especially because of the Americanization part of this, in which now we have different combinations of culture from around the world that all fit into this general need that people have to entertain themselves. And now it doesn't matter where you get it from. It's just a matter of whatever's entertaining is entertaining, and that's what becomes popular. And finally, sports have definitely contributed to the globalized culture as well. Best example of this is the Olympics, which finally became a worldwide event in about the 1960s or 70s. It allowed countries to exhibit their nationalism and their patriotism while competing with others on an international stage. It also said a lot about some of the political things that would be going on, and many times the Olympics definitely reflect ongoing events at the time. Yet overall, sports bring together people unlike anything else. Despite worldviews and beliefs and lifestyles, sports have an incredible way of bringing people together to cheer for or cheer against someone else. It's an incredible way in which we see human competition. And with that, many times athletes or teams transcend culture and become worldwide icons. Michael Jordan might be one of the best examples of this, who in the 1990s hit it big as one of the biggest athletes of all time. In fact, media companies crafted advertisements around him to sell products worldwide. For example, Gatorade, which had the slogan, "Be like Mike, drink Gatorade," and an awesome song that said, I want to be like Mike. That's still not true. Other events such as the World Cup certainly bring the entire world together. And the fact that we have sports like basketball and baseball that are played worldwide, it shows something fundamental about humans in that we always want to compete, but we really always want connection with other people. But that truly is the heart of pop culture and globalized culture in general. Pop culture, whether it's music, movies, TV, consumer culture, food, sports, whatever it might be, it always reflects the worldviews of the times. And in that way, it has always reflected a few fundamental characteristics about humans. We always want connection. We always want status, and we always want involvement with others. We are social beings. We were made that way. And in so many ways, our pop culture continues to reflect that. And in a day and age where the world is becoming more and more connected, our pop culture definitely reflects that, taking aspects from around the world and combining it together into this wonderful mismatched global culture that you get to enjoy every single day. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.